Next band actually is that kind of most established band that we are talking about. 3 albums under their belt. It might be the most of anyone we're talking here. But also many, many more than that in their assorted projects. Mutoid Man, and an album very on brand, simply titled Mutants. The cover is brilliant. It's got a crab man, like, crawling out of a nuclear vat. It's fucking great. Mutoid Man are one of the most all-star bands on the planet, because Stephen Brodsky, frontman of Cave In, Ben Collar, drummer of Converge, quite possibly in my top 5 drummers of all time. Newly added member to the ranks here, Jeff Matz, otherwise bassist of an almighty band called High on Fire. That is what you call a motherfucking power trio.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anyone in that band, if you're starting a supergroup, they'd be in the conversation. Like, if you want a guitar player, Stephen Brodsky, from the drummer Ben Collar. And why would you not want the guy from High on Fire?
Yeah, that bass tone on those fucking records.
Yes, please.
Fucking right. So, Mutoid Man, ostensibly a side project of those kind of legendary acts. But I think there is something so charming about them, because, I mean, particularly if you take, Stephen Brodsky and Ben Collar, who have been the kind of, again, the anchor of this band up to this point, both of those are like the kind of hyperkinetic spark of their bands, right? Like, even if you are watching Converge do the heaviest shit you've ever seen, Ben Collar is playing like an excited puppy. Even when you are listening to Converge's Blood Moon project, the biggest splashes of, like, kind of different colours and stuff in that are coming from kind of Stephen Brodsky's, like, major moments in the spotlight. So when you take Mutoid Man, you're, like, concentrating all of that wide-eyed kind of brevity in one place. It's been a long time since the last Mutoid Man record, 6 years, but their first 2, and whenever you've seen them live in that time, for me, this isn't a side project that I guess forget exists. I'm always like, yeah, I could go for a bit of Mutoid Man.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't say I forget they exist, but they're one of those bands where when they release a new record, I go, I should really listen to more Mutoid Man, because it's such a laugh. And then I kind of continue to not do so, for whatever reason. And I think maybe it's because they both play in such cerebral, devastatingly heavy bands in their day job that Mutoid Man seems like a bit of a folly. But they're a lot more off-kilter and proggy and, well, maybe not experimental, but they're kind of denser and more worth unravelling than that sort of dismissive comment gives them credit for. Because every time I go back to their records, I'm kind of taken aback by how much there is going on.
Yeah, I think, like, I mean, in terms of what you were just saying then, it wouldn't be a million miles away if you were to plot Mutoid Man on, like, a municipal waste bill and you could just have a really fun party. But they would be by far the weirdest band in that sort of area. And I feel like they're the weirdest band on most bills you could put them on. I always remember seeing them open for Mastodon and Cavell Attack, and it just being, like, the most my mood has been boosted by the very first band at a show. Like, just this absolute, like, ray of heavy riff sunshine that they are. And this record, they're so creative. Like, the riff that opens the album with Call of the Void is utterly bananas. Like, full on, how is that what you've conjured out of this guitar for this? And then you're going to base your song on that. It's, like, really proper out there thinking that, I think, particularly in the guitar ideas on this one, like, the really fucked up riff in Unborn. There's a screeching solo in Frozen Hearts that made me clench my teeth. It's so, like, shredded and fucking, white knuckle. His guitar doesn't sound like a guitar at points. It's mental.
Yeah, there are a few people on Earth who know how to get a better sound out of the electric guitar than Stephen Brodsky.
Yeah.
Like, whether that's his production or the way he plays it, either or. Like, on Broken Glass Ceiling, it sounds like Dimebag playing in Cathedral, which is not a combination I could have even imagined in my head. And it sounds great.
That made me think about kind of like, it's like a sludged up version of a classic era Danzig riff. It's like Snakes of Christ and stuff like that with a kind of guitar squeal, which again is exactly the kind of shit you could imagine them sort of like smashing out on like a 2 minutes to late night video or something. And it spoke to me, and having that like warped rock and roll personality that they always have. But again, he keeps finding ways to make riffs more fucked up as they go along. Like, Siphon is already this dizzying thrash metal riff at the start, but the last time he goes round on it, it's like blooping all over the place. It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, and then Graveyard Love is like 2 riffs for most of the song, one of which is like one of the fattest, most lumbering riffs you can hear all year, and the other one sounds like this sort of Jane's Addiction style up-tempo gate. It does so much in that 3-minute runtime, and you go, how did you write that? And yet it's stuck in my head.
Yeah, that Graveyard Lover is a really crazy riff. I think this record, compared to other Mutoid Man records, again, the stuff that stuck out to me more was that kind of like really just like mangling of heavy rock, more so than maybe the super anthemic end. I think Mutoid Man have got songs in them that if they weren't such like art rock freaks would be radio hits. Like Bridge Burner from the first album particularly is like just an unbelievable fucking rock song, and this has maybe less of those. Maybe I would like some more kind of real mega Brodsky vocal moments, because like Kith of Death from the last album is another one that's always in my head. But I will say the big whoa in Call the Void, it just makes you smile because they have just such a sort of excitable energy around them.
Yeah, and then Sitting Sun as the finale, melodically that's a bit Sad Wings of Destiny, but again, having Ben Collar in the band, the engine is so supercharged that it never feels sort of retro or like they're trying to hark back to something. And even when it feels like they are, like for the sort of melodic parts of Frozen Hearts, even that sounds like Thin Lizzy playing thrash. So it barrels along, but it has that melodic nous that bands like that did so well.
Yeah, and then they will have these like super guttural heavy turns that just have this like, you know, crazy fat guitar tone and Brodsky roaring. There's a breakdown at the end of Unborn that honest to God sounds like Max Cavalera wrote it. Like, it's fucking wild. How did they get the toms to sound that big? It sounds like they've multi-tracked the drum kit. It's just so fucking huge. I wouldn't be surprised if that was just Ben Collar, but like stuff like that. Siren Song grooves like a Red Fang song. I think when they go super fast, it's always kind of really thrilling. I feel like that's where their heart really lies, but then they do, again, switch it really, really well. I like the way that Siphon just starts with one of them yelling, just like, I think Ben Collar and Stephen Brodsky, considering they aren't even in their sort of main band together, they just have this like unbelievable chemistry, like that clicks. Like their energies just clearly work really well with each other. When you're hearing Brodsky do these fucking, you know, sort of Van Halen space thrash riffs or whatever, and then Ben Collar is just like absolutely smacking behind him. It's just two guys in perfect synchronicity. And then credit as well to Jeff as well, of course, for how he's kind of fit into that. Like being a trio, the bass is very prominent, and there are parts where it forms really important parts and kind of, you know, axis of the songs. I think the last Cave-In record that we reviewed last year is really fantastic and is more of kind of a recent high watermark for some of these guys. This is much more like cutting loose and doing some freaky ideas. I think they're still one of the most like just really fun riff bands out there, and they're still something of a secret, I think, for kind of the heavy music community. Like how sick this band are. They're like a Roadburn band, but they just have some of like the raddest heavy rock tunes in them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, maybe it's because of the other bands they're in. You wonder if it would be a different story if they were just three guys and this is the stuff they came out with. I think it says so much about them as creative individuals that this is their cut loose band, and you listen to it and you still think, how the fuck did you manage to put that together?
Yeah.
And then getting a guy to come in and play bass who could make it all work, make these ridiculous parts sound coherent. Yeah, I think this is my favourite of the Mutoid Man records so far, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, like I said, those other ones, why I listened to them, and I thought, that's great, I'll definitely come back to that, and then I don't. I think there's a fairly strong chance of me coming back to this one, and having it enter my regular listening. I really, really enjoyed this.
Very nice indeed.